Good time zone internet. Hello and welcome to Design Club, the only game design show on the internet that is proud to tell you right now that you can sign up to get notified when the Kickstarter for the history calendar goes live over on Extra History. I can guarantee you we're the only Design Club show on the internet that's going to tell you that today. So it's true. I always try and be truthful about
100% truth in Wilfertising.
Yeah, correct. Wilfertising. Oh, sure. Yeah, great. Awesome. Wilfertising.
That's advertising from, though, like, it's not a secret. Like, the thing says we're launching next Tuesday.
That's true. That is true. But we finally get to, like, officially tell people, as opposed to be like, so it's not out yet, but we're telling you. Right, but now we get to tell people, which is cool. I am always your humble host, Will, joined by my pal, Geoff, here to talk to you about some occurrences, a snafu.
Drama.
A spot of problem.
Drama.
Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because, like, if you've looked at the title, if you've looked at the thumbnail, you know today we're talking about the Subnautica 2 lawsuit, which is
and associated oddness.
Yeah, right. Because, like, there's two sides to this, right? One, there's a bunch of very big personalities involved, which leads to a lot of, like, big grandiose statements about, like, purpose and intention and, like, what's going to happen with money and all of these things. And then there's just, like, the pure mechanics of, like, if we take all the ego out of it and just look at the mechanical occurrences and how they laid out, that's really weird too on its own. Like, without all the egos getting involved, without all of, like, the interpersonal drama, just the mechanics of what occurred between Krafton and Unknown Worlds and the Subnautica 2 team is wild. So I think
yeah, in an industry known for its wildness. So
yes, right. And so
I want to throw one thing out there.
Sure.
Way before we actually get into this, which is the video game industry in a lot of cases is still the Wild West. This isn't, there are a lot of industries that you go to, say manufacturing, where you're like, here's what I want. Here's what I expect. You know, here's how we build the thing. And yes, I am sure there is drama, but there's process. People have been doing that for literally 1,000+ years of this is how we do it. Games are new. Games started off usually, you know, as recently as 40 or 50 years ago was when they actually became a thing, and they became a big thing more recently than that. Yeah. A lot of the people that got in didn't have business degrees. They were creative people. They hopped in. They made companies. They didn't have business degrees. They didn't have law degrees. A lot of it was seat of the pants. And a lot of the ones that succeeded are the people who went into leadership then in bigger and bigger companies and publishers. And while there have been a lot of people that have come in from business and legal, like the roots of the game industry are not, let's do standardized things. It's a lot of creative people and such. And so therefore, there aren't a lot of templates. There aren't a lot of, this is how we do things. Everything is different. Everything is negotiated. And therefore, we get a lot more weirdness because it's new, and the people who started the industry didn't come in a lot of cases from the business and the legal side.
Yeah.
So I'm laying that as groundwork.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind because, like, so I was thinking about the oddness that is the solo dev, right? The rare and elusive creature, the solo developer, right? So like we're on a safari, you know, investigating the habits of this, right? But in many ways, the solo developer is an odd sort of mashup between two different industries, right? On the one hand, they're very like an author, right, who produces a work for which they are the sole guiding force, and they produce a thing which might get polished by an editor and go to a publisher for distribution, but they are the creative force behind it. But at the same time, a game in many ways is much closer to a film in that it requires many technical steps, which require a wide degree of expertise and product.
Multidisciplinary.
Yes, it's a multidisciplinary finished product with many tools and assets that are used from many different sort of sub-industries that support that finished product. THX, video editing, and so on, versus for an author, the only thing in question is a word processor, right? So we've got this very odd thing for which no other industry is really a good exact template. We get like bits and pieces, right? We sort of jigsaw together what this might look like.
Solo devs wear 20 hats.
Yes, it's true.
I mean, it's funny. I've actually been asked by like a lot of people getting into the game industry of, should they be a generalist or a specialist? And my answer to that is, what size of team are you looking to work with? If you're looking, if you're an artist and you're looking to work with a studio that has maybe 10 or 20 people, as an artist, you might need to know how to do concept and animation and rigging and modeling and texturing, because you might only have 4 or 5 artists on the team. And therefore, you need to be able to do a wide variety of these disciplines. If you're going to go work at a huge shop, like, say, Rockstar, who's making Grand Theft Auto, they might have 2 people on their 1,000-person team that all they do is rigging. They will spend 5 or 6 years rigging models, and they'll have a whole small team of people that just do textures and just do animations and just do visual effects. And so what they're not looking for is generalists. They're looking for people who know that, but are really good at one specific thing that they can put in and be like, awesome, we're going to be doing 800 models before this game launches. Let's make sure they all work. You, rigging, you, and like,
right.
And so part of the difference on that, there are a lot of jobs. And that kind of gets down to like the solo person is doing a lot. Big teams have specialists.
Right.
Wait, we tangented, Will. I'm not quite sure how we got to that. But
well, so what we were talking about is the peculiarities of the game industry and how there aren't any other good industries that are necessarily good one-to-one maps, right? Because a lot of this Krafton unknown worlds, what we're going to call the Subnautica 2 snafu or the Subnautica 2 drama, right, is all predicated on how weird this industry is in a lot of ways. So we're sort of setting the groundwork for that. So let's do it this way. Let's set out what happened in sort of long chronological order, and we'll interrupt with the things that like we think people should know, right?
Did you want to do a little preamble on like publishers and developers and kind of all that first?
Maybe let's start with like an important thing, and then we'll talk about the relationship that was established, because I think I think the most important thing that it's very easy to miss when we talk about the Subnautica 2 thing is that Krafton, the publisher in this case, in 2021 acquired Unknown Worlds, the developer, entirely.
Acquired means bought.
Acquired means bought in its entirety. They own that studio. So Krafton, in this case, is operating in 2 capacities, sort of, which are often linked, right? We have their capacity as the owners of the Unknown Worlds developer studio.
So they own the dev studio.
Correct. And they're operating as the, in this case, specific publisher of the product Subnautica 2. And those are closely linked here. And this whole circumstance would be different if both of those things weren't true. I think that's my assumption. So let's talk about what those 2 things mean, right? What does it mean for a publisher to own a studio, and what is the publisher studio relationship normally entail, right? And that's, of course, a huge loaded question. We're going to give you the completely true and utterly useless average approximation of a publishing deal, because they're all different, because every publisher does things just a little differently, and every game is...
Actually, and developers need different things too, which is actually, because developers also need different things, that is part of what keeps it from being stock standard.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Krafton...
Let's start out with a really basic thing.
Yes.
The group that makes a game is called the development team.
Sure.
Sometimes called devs. developers make a game. Cool. Developers are usually a small studio, though they could be big. Some developers are also publishers, but we're going to ignore that fact for the moment, just because that rolls into part of what we're talking about later.
Mm-hmm.
But the dev's job is to make the game.
Yes.
One of the biggest things to know about development studios is development studios don't usually have a large amount of money. Just straight up. If Will and I were going to go find 20 people and go make a studio tomorrow to go make Technomancer, we might be able to get the people. But if we're like, okay, this is 20 people, it's going to take us 2 years to make the game. Therefore, we need $5 million to pay 20 people for 2 years, plus software licenses, healthcare, blah, 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 blah. We might not have that $5 million laying around.
Right.
In fact, good chance we don't.
Geoff, I'm sure you're shocked by this. I don't have my $2.5 million in this theoretical venture just chilling. And I also regret to inform you that I don't think my kidneys are worth that much. So we might need some help.
Even if you did, would you be willing to invest $2.5 million of your own into this game? That's also another question. So
I am reminded of a scene in which Nathan Lane is shaking Matthew Broderick, screaming, never put your own money in the show. And the second rule is never put your own money in the show. So I'm going to go with no.
Yeah. So anyway, developers have the ability to make games. Let's just put that out there. That is why they are a dev studio.
Yep.
But they are often in need of funding. Most banks and other institutions do not fund creative projects.
Yeah.
Just straight up. That is not a thing that, like, banks will do small business loans. Those are usually securitized by assets. In other words, you're like, hey, I need to borrow 500,000 bank, but I'm putting my house up as collateral or some other thing. Anyway, publishers are a group of individuals that are not developers. Developers are good at making game. Publishers, theoretically, devs are good at making game. Theoretically, publishers are good at taking game and moving it into the market.
Yes.
This means that they usually do the marketing aspect of it. They have relationships with the storefronts to get your games onto Xbox and PlayStation and iOS and Android. They probably have additional resources that might include localization, that might involve QA. They have marketing teams. They have promotional teams. They also often have money. And they take this money, and in addition to doing marketing and promotion and paying all their employees, they will invest money with a developer into the creation of a game in return for getting paid back that and then splitting in some way the profits of the game. So publisher looks at lots of devs that could be funding, says, you developer, it's like, I have $10 in the bank. Your game will cost $2, small numbers. I will invest the $2 in you and the $4 this person needs or dev team needs and the $3 in this, and I have $1 left. All the rest of my dollars are tied up in these 3 dev teams. I need to make sure their games come out and at least pay us back and hopefully make more money. So if all 3 games are successful and let's say double their money, cool, we now have $19 that we can be investing in games.
Right.
If one of those games fails, say that $4 game, and the others do okay, they've not only lost their $4 investment, they've also lost that hopefully $4 doubling.
Right.
So they went from, because 2 of their games succeeded, they went from $10 to $11 there in that case. And this is why publishers have things like milestones and external teams that work with the dev team, because they're trying to ensure that the money they put in comes back so that they also don't go out of business.
Right.
And this is kind of the base relationship between developer and publisher.
Okay.
Group 1, make game. Group 2, fund plus.
Yep. Okay. So let's dive in real quick on that check-in process. right? So you said that the as part of this arrangement that the publisher is going to give the developer some money, the publisher gets to check in and see how development is going. It acts as sort of an oversight.
This is actually fairly structured. Like there is industry standard ways of doing this.
Okay. So because
and in most cases it's called milestones.
Right. So I will tell you for freezies that I completely understand this kind of idea. And I'll tell you what acts as the publisher in my life. It's my phone. Because you see, we mentioned that we've got a Kickstarter coming up and we're going to be doing a special stream for it. And I was working on that. And I totally lost track of time and would have missed my check-in to start this stream if my phone hadn't gone off and reminded me, hey, you also have this other thing that needs to be done, right? So in the same way, I can understand why it might be important to have sort of a structure to this rather than letting scope creep, feature creep, letting the perfect be the enemy
Creative
of the
creep.
good. Yeah, right, exactly.
And usually milestones are based on mutually agreed upon conditions that happen before the funding is given.
Okay.
So you might, like I have been part of several pitches where we've gone off and pitched publishers and we're like, here's the game we're making. Here are the rough, the 6 milestones that we're looking for $10 million to be paid across 3 years and 6 milestones. Here is what we will have delivered by the end of each milestone. And usually this is a fairly standard way that happens. There's always exceptions,
Sure.
And basically publisher at the end of each milestone, they have an external producer. The producer works on the publisher side and works with the developer, and they're in contact all the time. But at the end of every milestone, they look at the list of what was agreed upon. They look at what's done and they say, have you met your milestone obligations? And assuming that they have, the next funding part is unlocked, because say we were asking for 10 across 6 milestones, that might mean like 2 million up front and then 8 million upon hitting each of these 6, or 8 million combined across 6 milestones.
Yeah.
Etc. And sometimes it starts smaller and ramps up if you need to accelerate your team towards the end. It depends how it is, but hitting milestone equals next funding tranche of money.
So and to be clear, you as a developer had a plan, had a vision, both for the game and for the path between the present and what the game and what the completed game would be. And the thing that you needed, right, was money that you couldn't raise on your own, right? So we had a great question in chat, which is, what are the publishers actually providing? Because a lot of people think of as a publisher as only the marketing, bring to market, revenue share.
Piggy bank is one of the biggest things that publisher provides, because let's just say creatives aren't always the best at raising money, and that's often not their skill set,
right?
Or managing it. But the publisher, that is part of what they do, is by publishing games and investing in developers they think will be successful, they stockpile money to fund games. If there were not publishers, the game industry as we know would not exist, just from a funding perspective.
Right, because it's not the publishing it's not the publicity that we are focusing on. It is the whether or not the game exists part that I think
actually, this is true. Like if you go back to books, I usually talk about books a lot. A lot of authors don't have the money to go write the book.
Yes.
They need an advance from their publisher to give them funds to live on while they finish writing the book.
Yes.
And then what happens in the book industry is there's a recoup. If the publisher advanced you $10,000, the first 10,000 in book sales go back to the publisher to cover the 10,000 they lent you. And after that, there's a split between publisher and writer.
Okay.
And the same case almost always in developer is that's just how it works. They are advancing you money. It is not a gift. It is an advance of money.
Okay. So
and one of the things, by the way, your publishing deal, remember, if you can go to a publisher with your game half done, like the more money you ask for, the worse your deal percentage wise once the game comes out. If you're going to Electronic Arts and you're like, hey, I need 100 million to make this game, that's very different than saying, I need 10 million to finish my game. We've already spent 90 million making it. This is just to get us across the finish line. Like, those are very different propositions. or on kind of the scale of what the publisher is providing. So there are additional publisher services, one of the biggest of which is promotion and storefront integration.
Right.
And in some cases, but there are lots of other services for them. Like, they are full businesses. They do a lot of risk assessment for you. They do a lot of research for you. But in the grand scheme of things here, the biggest one that most people don't think about is publishers fund people.
Yeah.
And because of that, they have an external producer and sometimes external team evaluating it. And there are milestones to check in, mutually agreed upon milestones that the developer and publisher, when they were doing the contract, sat down to talk about. But also, both sides usually want this to work. Like, if there's something going on, the dev might be like, hey, this is taking longer than expected here. We're either going to have to cut some stuff, or we're going to run out of money. What shall we do? And there'll be a discussion. Does the publisher increase their investment? Does the publisher say, no, we just don't have more money to invest right now? We've already invested in these, our $10, 9 of them are out right now. We don't have more dollars, dev, so you guys are either got to make up the time or you got to cut some stuff.
Right.
So anyway, but these are very typical relationships.
Right. So let's talk about what the because this story is going to hinge a bit on this. Let's talk about those control aspects. So when we're going to say that things aren't going well for the sake of this, right? Because in the Subnautica case, as we'll get to in a second, things are not really going as well as according to some sources. What in this relationship, what typically does a publisher get to do if they think that the game has gone completely off track? If between milestone A and milestone G, somewhere nebulous, things have gone completely off track, we're not on target. Normally, what is the relationship there like, where the publisher gets to exercise some amount of control and say, hey, we made a deal and you're not honoring it?
Yeah. So part number one, if you don't hit your milestone, you usually don't get your next batch of money.
Okay.
Just straight up. Like, money come when, like, it's kind of like when you were a kid and your parents are like, did you take out the trash for your, you get your allowance based on a set of tasks.
Yes.
If task's not done, part of allowance not delivered.
Sure.
Like, it is that kind of relationship here.
Okay. But that's normally the extent of their control.
Not necessarily. And this is contraction based on how it was.
Sure.
So they could, so going along with that, if you're a developer and you've fallen behind and you're like, we're about to run out of money because we're 3 weeks behind on our milestone and it's going to take us another 2 months to do this. Like, there are a lot of teams that basically fold because they have not hit their milestone. And this sucks, but this is also publisher protection, because let's add a couple zeros. Say instead of publisher investing $4 in your game, this was 40 million, and they've already put 10 million in, and they're looking at this going, wow, you guys just aren't making it. They're basically saving themselves that other $30 million because your team's not performing, to go find another game to fund and hopefully recover what they lost off the team they were already interacting with.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't publishers being mean. Okay, there are cases of publishers being mean, absolutely. But usually, publisher is trying to protect its money so it can keep funding more games. Like, that is what publishers do. Like,
sure.
At the end of the day, they fund.
Yep. Okay,
and they need to get funds back.
Right.
So yeah, there are, depending upon the deal,
sure,
the devs may be able to walk with their code. Like, if the publisher cancels it, they're just like, hey, we don't think you're doing it. There are some cases where the devs still own the code and the IP.
And we're seeing a clean-cut example of that in the news cycle right now. As a result of the Microsoft layoffs, Romero Games has announced that while their funding was withdrawn due to publisher cuts from an unnamed publisher, Microsoft, they are now shopping for another publisher to help them across the finish line, right? So in that case,
this is most likely because their funding was, it wasn't that they failed a milestone. It was
correct.
There was something in their contract that allowed the publisher to say, in certain cases, we may cut this. Usually what happens in that case to be fair to the devs, is if we are unable to fund you, all that money we put in, guess what? You now just own it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we were funding you for 25 million. We've already put 5 in, and then we suddenly have to pull back. That 5 million we gave you, you know,
it's a loss on our part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's sucky, but like, if they find a new publisher, it might end up rosier for them.
Absolutely, especially because Romero Games in particular has gotten a big boost in the news cycle because it's largely been seen as, this is a studio we like, and this really stinks for them, and hopefully they do get a good deal out of that.
Yeah. And again, it depends on the contract. There's absolutely ones where like that initial funding could have given Microsoft an ownership of part of the company.
Right.
And even if they cut it loose, they would still own that part of the company. Like,
yes,
it depends on the contract.
Right. And I think a lot of these cases, and we cannot stress this enough, are going to come down to the specifics of a contract that's worked out on a case-by-case basis by people who are lawyers, we're not, who are versed in specifically contract law. Again, not a thing we're well versed in, right? And so those specifics will
I have some familiarity with.
Yeah.
But also, it's how much leverage did each side have? Like, if you're coming begging for money, you know, who gives you money might ask for more. Or if you're like, hey, I got a strong thing that 4 people are considering, you might be able to get away with a lot less.
Yep.
You know, Romero with his name
gets to get away with a lot.
So again, this is why we say it's hard to know.
For sure.
Anyway, like, so that cut off, like his group's going around, they probably ended up with some funding that they don't now have to pay back.
Yep.
We'll see.
Sure.
Who knows? Like, that's one option. But if they'd been working for Microsoft, had failed a couple of things, and were in breach, Microsoft might have been able to take over the project because they'd put an investment in. The people doing the job basically continually failed to hit milestones, and there may be a forfeiture clause in there that basically says, hey, allows publisher to be like, we invested all this money, you spent time but didn't get it done. To try and recover our money, we're going to take that and give it to, say, another developer to finish.
Right.
And we've seen these in the news as well. And that's, again, purely based on how the contract was done. But publisher might have the right to say, we think this game is worth saving. Because you have failed to hit these milestones, we are now allowed to take it and try and find a group who can finish it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about one other big difference in the way that publishers and developers operate, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into the Subnautica thing. So sometimes you will hear 2 different kinds of development talked about. Nintendo is a really clean-cut, clear example of this. Sometimes you will hear about first-party developed titles and third-party developed titles. So a
Second is weird. But yes.
Second-party development is not a thing in the same way that, for the most part, second-person novels aren't a thing, though I've definitely seen them and have definitely tried to write one. And it's
I saw a game with second-person when we were back at EDAR, because we were trying to we had to find one. There's a game where you play as a kid standing on a building controlling a giant robot. And so it's you're not viewing from the robot, first person, you're not kind of the over the shoulder third, but you are the second person observer. You're the kid with the remote control. And as you move it, you see the robot moving around in the distance. Like, it was hard to find. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, not the point. So first party development is Nintendo's in-house studio is developing Donkey Kong Bonanza or the next Zelda game or the next Mario game or whatever, right? One of the big flagship things, but that is Nintendo acting as both the publisher and part of them acting as the developer, right?
Yes.
It's all in-house. In those cases, the rules are slightly more standardized because it's all inside of the same.
You'd think that.
Okay.
Not always.
Okay.
Because the publishing arm of Nintendo also publishes some other things.
Right.
And often, more than you would think, publishing group and developing group, even within the same company, still have a slightly adversarial role to try and keep things on the level.
Yeah.
Because say you're working as a developer, let's use Nintendo as a good example. Should somebody working on the Donkey Kong game, let's say the lead producer on that, be able to say, we'd originally slated 80 million for development, but I think we now need 160. Done.
No, of course not. So they act as internal checks and balances in an adversarial,
the developer
way.
Team, even though it's part of Nintendo, doesn't have unlimited ability to say, for example, hey, publishers, let's just double our dev budget, or we need another 3 years. Or like, there are certain decisions that you still want the publishing team being like, wait a second, we know you are developers and we know you're Nintendo, but
yeah,
we still have $10 to be investing amongst all of our development, and you asking for more is going to either run us out of money or impact one of the other teams. And so there are often friendlier relationships, but not always. When I worked at Sony years ago, Sony was fairly famous for having different parts of Sony all hating each other and not working together at all.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So there's this oversight role, right? Okay. So in this case, it's important to note. Yes. I knew that I heard it and I was like, I'm gonna let it go, and chat caught you. You
can tell I have a kid.
Yeah. So the Krafton case, right, is that Krafton owns Unknown Worlds. So Unknown Worlds is now part of Krafton, right?
They are first party. They are wholly owned. Yes.
Right. So there's a first
party. They are wholly owned within parent company.
Yes.
Within parent company, however, there is a publishing branch and there's a developing branch.
Yes. And
often they are run as independent studios. With Unknown Worlds being bought, it's not like they all picked up and went to South Korea for Claire. Like, they were still run as their own independent studio.
Correct. However,
wherever they were.
Right. However, and this is where it starts to get interesting. So our story starts. So we fast forward from October 2021, when Krafton bought Unknown Worlds, to July 2nd of this year, a mere 15 days ago, when Krafton announced that a new lead would take over for the 3 existing leads on the project, Subnautica 2, effective immediately. Now.
Actually, is Subnautica making any, is Subnautica also the name of this next to me? It's no, it's not. They have multiple games at Unknown.
Right. Unknown Worlds has made several games. They've made Moonraker, they've made Subnautica 1, they've made Subnautica Below Zero. I had to look at chat for that one. I've forgotten.
So we don't know what their team structure is over there, but we can at least say one of their most major teams,
correct,
had its leadership gutted and replaced.
Correct. And also 3 people replaced with 1 person is a hell of a replacement. Okay. And it's important to note that my understanding about this is that this is not Krafton operating in its capacity directly as a publisher. This is Krafton acting in its capacity as the people who own Unknown Worlds and are in charge of everyone there. And so this happened, right, on July 2nd.
Though that is most likely still heavily publisher
correct
related.
And indeed, Geoff, as if you had read the notes, it seems that way because on July 9th, a week later exactly, it was reported that Subnautica 2, which was headed for early access this year in 2025, was going to be delayed till a nebulous period in 2026. So delayed at least 6 months, right? Assuming that it was going to come out tomorrow and it comes out January 1st, 2026. At least 6 months, probably more.
And typically, and we'll get to other stuff later, typically what this would mean is if you heard that and you've been in the game industry a while, you'd be like, wow, that team must have been really behind. Like something in the way that the leadership was working on the team was not working because a game that was supposed to come out this year is being, with still half a year left, roughly, is being delayed at least until next year. My guess is if it's not coming out in the next 6 months and they're hitting the next calendar year, they're probably saying it's at least double that. So at least mid of next year, maybe later.
Yeah.
So that means there was significantly more work that needed to be done, or the game wasn't fun. And it needed major retooling to find the fun in the game and make it what they thought they could sell for that would cover the development cost.
Right.
Like, you don't yank the leadership in a team casually as an owner. Like, usually that means something bad has been happening, because that's kind of the last step.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you there will be chaos in the transition. There always is.
Absolutely.
So that is what you would typically think if you've been in the industry a while. However, there may be other factors.
Correct. So there are a plethora of other factors in this case specifically. So let's start with the simplest among them. Well, the simplest and probably most obvious among them. There was in the balance here a $250 million bonus, an earnout. Can you define an earnout? It's just a big bonus if you meet a target, right?
Oh, actually, this is worth spending a minute on before.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So having sold my own studio before, and been part of the acquisition of others on both sides, actually, there's an interesting thing. If I'm like, hey, Will, we did well with Hecnomancer. We've made it. We have Hecnomancer 1 and Hecnomancer 2. We're working on Hecnomancer 3. But we've been doing this now for 10 years, and you and I are burnt out. Let's see if we can sell our studio, and then somebody else, somebody will buy it, and, they'll finish. We have this whole team of people.
Right.
They're going to buy it. They're going to get our Hecnomancer IP. They're going to get the whole team to keep working on it. But you and I are burnt. It's probably time for us to leave. We've been doing this for a decade.
Right.
Part of what unknown publisher or unknown company buying us is looking for is not just the IP, Hecnomancer, intellectual property of Hecnomancer, but all of the code and the team that knows how to make it and is in the middle of making it. So whoever buys us has a very vested interest in making sure that our team continues to operate, because part of what they're buying is they're buying the people. They're buying the team that has been constructed to make this game, and they want it to continue, because otherwise, what are they buying? Like, if you're buying a game in progress, you want the game to come out. So typically, upon an acquisition, say, Will, you and I were going to get paid $10 million for our Hecnomancer Studios. What it might be is you guys get $5 million. And a year from now, assuming all the milestones are hit, you will get your other $5 million. That's our earnout. So we basically have to stay there for a year and make sure that every other thing gets done. And our incentive for that is that we get the other half of the money for it. And typically, studio coming in and buying it will also go to all of our key employees and be like, hey, here's if you stay on for at least another year or until the game is finished, in addition to your normal pay, we'll give you a bonus. And that they basically come in and often do bribes. They will come in and be like, hey, everybody, we really value you. We think you should stay in to show our sincerity. There's money if you reach these milestones.
Right.
These are called earnouts, or excuse me, milestones, earnouts, bonuses. There's all sorts of slang around, and it actually means different things. But the rough version is, stay, we bought you, please stay, here's money.
Okay.
Conditional on you staying and things getting done.
Correct. And in this case,
that $250, I believe, is part of a purchase price that never got paid out, that is dependent upon these guys performing and getting the stuff done.
And in this case, it's being reported that the $250 million earnout is pegged to a studio revenue target for 2025 specifically. And this is where people just immediately ran to the kitchen, grabbed the biggest roll of aluminum foil they possibly could, and just started making hats. Like, so, okay, let's be clear. There's a $250 million earnout that is conditional.
$250 million is paid upon games successfully coming out with certain agreed upon targets in 2025.
Yes. Okay.
And they've been working on it since at least 2021.
Correct. It has been a hot second that they have been working on this project. Now, it's also important to know that the game doesn't need to be done. It just needs to be early access. However, for the purposes of this, early access milestones are just the same as release milestones, right? There is still a quality level that the publisher and the developer have agreed upon, with certain amounts of content that need to be in the game.
Must be playable at this level of fun with this amount of stuff in it.
And this rate of bugs and terminal crashes and blah, 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 right? Like, it's all probably there in the contract. See contract for further details. We don't have it. So that was one whole part of it. The other whole part of it...
But to be fair, as I was saying industry stuff before, industry group that hears huge bonus tied to thing and getting delayed get skeptical, because there are absolutely cases of publishers looking to wiggle out of large payments.
Exactly, 100%. And that is, and I think that is definitely a gut instinct that a lot of people have, because, and I think that chat's demonstrated this not to an unreasonable extent, but there is some skepticism in the gaming community as a whole about the relationship between developers and publishers for a couple of reasons. One, the developers are people whose work you enjoy, right? You have created a relationship with the work of a developer, not with the work of a publisher, right? So if you enjoy, for the most part, I have exceptions to that, but I'm a streamer and I'm weird. You have a relationship with that, and you want that developer to succeed. And when you hear that a publisher is telling them that they are not ready, or that it's not right, or they're withholding funding or cutting or whatever, that generates an adversarial relationship, right? So I think a lot of people jumped to the conclusion that, Krafton doesn't want to pay the $250 million earnout, right? And so, you know, that is certainly an option. Let's talk about why it gets weirder. So when they announced that Subnautica 2 was being delayed to 2026.
So this was July 9th.
This was July 9th.
1 week exactly after it was released and announced there was a leadership change.
Correct. Krafton released a press release, which I'm not 100% on this press release. I'm not going to read it to you in full, but I'll read you a part to give you kind of an idea of the tone.
Okay.
So in the subject, background of leadership change, the following paragraph exists. Krafton believes that the absence of core leadership has resulted in repeated confusion in direction and significant delays in the overall project schedule. The current early access version also falls short in terms of content volume. We are deeply disappointed by the former leadership's conduct, and above all, we feel a profound sense of betrayal by their failure to honor the trust placed in them by our fans. That's an official corporate press release, y'all. That doesn't sound like an official corporate press release. That sounds like a twitlonger. I've been on the internet long enough to read enough twitlongers to know that sounds like a twitlonger, not like a press release, right?
Like, it's not an unhinged release, but it is definitely one with some spice in it. Like, press releases usually look to avoid being interesting, honestly. Like, they want people to know. It's like, cool, okay. But my guess part of this, Will, is that there's enough people thinking Krafton did stupid thing, or like they recognize the optics of it. And I think at least a couple people on the Krafton side do feel burned. And usually that doesn't make it to a press release. In this case, it did. Right.
So that's one whole side. At the same time, as Chad is correctly pointing out, the three individuals in question, that's Ted Gill, Charlie Cleveland, and Max McGuire, have stated unequivocally that they disagree with this assessment. That they are of the opinion that it is ready for early access, and that this is solely done in an effort to avoid this payout. And to that end, they have even said that the money, while it was going to flow through the three of them, right, the earnout was directed at them. They have claimed that their intention was to pay out that money in a form of sort of secondary bonus to other members of the development team, which is not.
Do we have a list of like, have other people confirmed that, or have they said the percent? Is it like, and we're going to give 5% of this to the dev team, or like, I'm kind of curious because the only things I've seen, and I haven't seen all of it, sound vague on that.
I have also only seen vague things, though it is entirely possible in the time since I did my background reading for this story, and when you're watching this, whenever that may be, that new details have come to light. But I have not seen specifics on amounts or direction of individual bonuses as a part of that $250 million.
Because like, I remember when we spun, back when I was working on EverQuest a long time ago, Will, Sony canceled all PC games. We were part of Sony. They said we were only doing PlayStation games, and every PC game in development got canceled. And John Smedley, Brad McQuaid, and Russ Shanks, who is the leadership team on EverQuest, went and shopped around and got us new funding and to make the game. And later, and took a large ownership stake in the company. Actually, I believe there were some of the investors, but the three of them got a lot of the company. And later, like a year and a half later, when EverQuest was out and was doing really well, we got acquired. And those three people got a tremendous amount of money, and the rest of us got a little bit. And to be fair, they were the ones who saved the game. They did a good job. It would not, the money would not, the game would not have existed, and the money would not have existed if not for them. But there was a lot of grumbling within the studio that those three people seem to have disproportionately gotten millions and millions of dollars, and the rest of us got money. But it was not like, you know, it was like, here's a 4-figure bonus. Hey, that's great. And in some cases, maybe even low 5-figure, but it was not a 7-figure bonus or 8-figure bonus. And so there are disproportionate things. And part of that has made me inherently skeptical as a developer after that, that when founders are like, we are sharing the money, like sharing the money might mean they are passing half of it along, 125 million. It might also mean that they're passing 5% of it along. Like, it is an unknown thing. And in the same way that a lot of people are like, wow, that publisher is saying that to try and avoid getting paid, the devs, of course, also have all reasons to say, no, we were 100% good here, because they also have a financial incentive to say, no, things were good, please give us that money.
Right.
Like, both sides have heavy like $250 million worth of financial incentive.
Right.
Based on who is right in this case.
Right. It's a lot of money, and it's understandable that there's a lot of blame being thrown around.
Yeah.
But wait, Geoff, what if I told you it got weirder? So the following day, the trio, speaking through Charlie in a Reddit post, announced that they would be suing Krafton personally. Now, this is where it gets really weird, right? They're not questioning that they've been fired, I believe, though the exact details of their lawsuit against Krafton are not yet out for like public
and probably won't be. Like, if they're filing a lawsuit, some of this is going to stay wrapped up until the lawsuit goes in.
Correct. So we now know that it is, while we might want more details, right, that there is sort of an interesting dichotomy here, right? Because the absolute correct move from the three of those individuals now is to visit Will's patented class on Shut Up. This is a class that lots of people in many industries have a problem with, is stop, cease, desist. Don't do that. And the reason for that is that it has anything that they say on this matter now in public is significant potential to harm their case, to harm their lawsuit against
Or at least
Krafton.
Potentially.
Correct.
And it's hard to sometimes know what the potential is.
Correct. This is a great question, and I'm really glad somebody brought it up. Odin here brings up, what jurisdiction would the suit be in? Kraft is a Korean company. I have not a single clue on that one.
That will be based on the contract. Contracts almost always state where the jurisdiction is for remedies.
Okay. And this has been in the news in the past year or so when Steam declared that I think we covered it on Breakfast briefly. Steam declared that all the jurisdiction for all lawsuits against Steam was going to be in Bellevue, Washington, I think.
I just found a thing. I was skimming through one of the articles you have. As for the, let's see. Later on Thursday, Unknown World's co-founder and Subnautica director Charlie Cleveland responded to these accusations by saying he'd filed a lawsuit. As for the earnout, the idea that Max, Ted, and I wanted to keep it all for ourselves is totally untrue. He writes, historically, we've always shared our profits with the team, and we did the same when we stole the studio.
Right.
So this isn't all of it goes to the team. This is we have in the past shared.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. All right. And then there's one more twist, and it's probably the biggest one, and it's the reason that a lot of people are talking about this. Because at some point during this event, during all of this occurrence, some screenshots from the May milestone meeting. And
listen, going back again, remember, milestones are what you and Devin Publisher had agreed upon. This is what needs to be hit for achievement and getting next funding unlock.
Correct. So there was a May meeting, which likely, as a result of the timeline, was probably pretty key in Krafton making the decisions, which happened on July 2nd and July 9th. Mid to late May meeting, give it about a month to get everything in place, execute at the beginning of July, makes about sense. And they're not good pictures, which is why we're not putting them up on screen, because they're not great pictures. But they are definitely pictures that someone took in the worst way that we all hate possible of a camera with a screen. Great job. 100% there's no way you could like take a screenshot and then send it or like pull a thumb drive or whatever. But like
it may mean that they were in the room and taking it with their camera as opposed to like having the deck.
Correct. It feels very clandestine in nature. And let's talk about what those say, and then we'll go into the last piece of absolutely unhinged weirdness. So the deck slides essentially say that the recommendation as of May 2025 is that the game isn't ready for early access launch due to it being smaller in scope than was agreed upon in 2023. There are the removal of several biomes, several creatures, lots of equipment, a custom game.
Actually, say that and then read it again, and I'm going to translate what that means. But read it off, and then we'll review.
Compared to Q2 2023, 2 biomes were removed, so 2 zones.
Possibly more than that. Actually, do the full read, and then let's go back and analyze.
1 type of Leviathan, that's the really big gribbly thing, the boss, essentially. Fewer types of creatures, biomods, and other character customization features excluded. The number of tools, equipment decreased, with the additional vehicle, the Trident, excluded. A custom game mode removed, and 1 narrative delayed with about 6 hours of content cut.
Okay.
So, and again,
go ahead.
I do want to clarify. This is Larky is completely correct, and I do want to acknowledge this. When we're talking about this, we're not saying that none of these things will be in the final game, Subnautica 2, the 1.0 release. Merely that it is the assertion of this May 2025 meeting that these things are not in the version that is slated for early access release. And in the same way that milestones need to be hit for release, milestones are agreed upon for early access as well. Because the early access version coming out as a buggy mess does hurt the game's chances in the long run. We've seen it a bunch.
Not having enough stuff to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But so that was a substantive list, Will. Read that back for me. I'm going to do, as you read it, I'm just going to do really, really quick what that means. Like from a developer, actually, having been on both sides, let me tell you what I hear when I hear that. 2
biomes removed of the 4 that were originally listed. There were 4 biomes listed.
Biomes might not just be a level. They might be multiple levels or worlds, because each type of environment you do, like say we're doing a forest biome. That's the trees, the weather, the plants, the ability to make the tree, like all of that together. And so that might mean a level, but that might mean 20 levels, or it might mean like a 20 by 20 kilometer like a whole biome. Like people operate in biome construction because of the amount of assets you have to make, and then you start making the stuff around it.
Right.
So with 2 of the 4 means half of the environment they thought they were going to have done at this point, not done yet.
Correct. Now, in fairness to the developers, I'm gonna try and do it to be as fair with this as possible. The Coral Gardens, the first biome that's listed, has gone from 3 main points of interest to 7 main points of interest.
Okay. So they did more on the. Okay.
They have gone deeper and more detailed on one biome, So the next one is 1 type of Leviathan removed, fewer creatures / biomods, and character customization features excluded.
Okay, so at least a boss and character custom. Okay, so that's basically on the gameplay team and the art team, and then the character customization is on the basically usually the progression team and the art team. So, but basically less ways to customize yourself, and or when you level up, like less outfits or other things to wear.
Correct. It changed from character selection of 4 characters with light customization to just character selections of 4 characters. There's also the removal of 8 creatures. There were 20 creatures originally listed, and now we're down to 12. There were,
Okay. Keep going for a second, then I'm going to give a summation.
Yeah. The number of tools, equipment are decreased, and they're missing a vehicle.
So I'm not sure how big the vehicle is, but again, missing tools and equipment, that's back to kind of art and gameplay and engineering combined, like things you can use in the game. Right. Like if you're going to go play Halo, this would be guns and equipment and grenades and like things that and the interesting thing though is those take tuning time. Like introducing those into the game means that you need another balance, etc. pass as things come in and things change. The same with addition of new monsters. Was there anything else before
they removed a custom game mode and removed a narrative.
So game mode, that could be big or little, but that could also be like, hey, we're using this to do, capture the flag as well as normal gameplay. Like a whole game mode is honestly fairly big. And what was the last one? Sorry.
A narrative cut. So they were originally planning on implementing 2 chapters of narrative is their unit. And currently there's 1 chapter, and it's a move from about 13 to 16 hours of gameplay to about 8 to 10.
And that's also like narrative takes forever to get in because it's not just the narrative, but it's usually associated text and VO and quests and just all of the cutscenes and animation and cinematic, everything that goes in with it. So altogether, when I'm hearing that, like as a developer or actually on either side, what it sounds like is the pace their team thought they could hit, they hit a significantly slower pace. Like that's not, hey, we're backed up in level design or, we're backed up in this. This is literally the whole team. It's like, customization and monsters and environments and narrative. That is the breadth of the development team. Every single thing seems like it is well or very far behind from where they should have been at this point based on previous milestones.
Right. And
so if that is true, and I'm guessing for the moment it is.
Sure.
Then the team was very far behind, and Krafton's basic statement that we think, there's been confusion and slowdown under these 3 people may actually be true. Like that screenshot and those things significantly support that narrative.
Correct. And indeed, at the bottom of the second of these screenshots is the following statement. Compared to the originally planned EA launch specifications, the current target content volume has been reduced or adjusted across various elements such as biomes, creatures, equipment / progression, and features. Due to a gap between the current state and the content volume assumed during the initial launch planning, it is necessary to reassess the release timeline and roadmap. Which, if all of those things are true, makes sense, right? The game is half as long, narratively speaking, with significantly less environmental complexity and fewer enemies and the like, right? Now, this is the really weird one. This is
Oh, actually, and really quickly, one of the things we didn't mention, there was an accusation early on from Krafton that basically the three founders had kind of effed off. They were like, they'd gotten enough money that they didn't care anymore. Like, it was like one of them's off shooting his own indie film. And
yes,
like that, it was basically listing things that they were off doing. I have been at studios early in my career where the founders got distracted and or there wasn't kind of that driving force. And it does slow down production.
absolutely.
Like when your creative director is like, oh, sorry, I'm off for a week with my new Ferrari that I got from the payoff, racing in Italy. It's kind of a team demoralizer. And you also don't have that person
correct
pushing forward to get stuff done.
I will read the portion, you thought the part I was reading before was hot and spicy for a press release? The following is also from Krafton's press release. However, regrettably, the former leadership abandoned the responsibilities entrusted to them. Subnautica 2 was originally planned for an early access launch in early 2024, but the timeline has since been significantly delayed. Krafton made multiple requests to Charlie and Max to resume their roles as game director and technical director, respectively, but both declined to do so. In particular, following the failure of Moonbreaker, that's another game that they came out with. I played it. It was mid. It's not surprising to me that it failed. Their business model wasn't very clear, and that it launched in sort of a very lackluster state. Krafton asked Charlie to devote himself to the development of Subnautica 2. However, instead of participating in the game development, he chose to focus on a personal film project. That's in a corporate press release. Again, wild. So, if that is all true...
And the founders deny this, by the way. They say they were fully involved.
Correct. Right. So, that's kind of an interesting twist to this. And the last twist, the twist the twist that I am absolutely gobsmacked by is,
okay.
When I said that those screenshots were like terrible and shot on a camera at a bad angle of a screen, it would have been so easy for Krafton to be like, nah, this is cooked. This is cooked. This isn't it. Instead, Krafton has confirmed that those screenshots are real, has said that those are actual those are actual snapshots of actual development progress notes from Subnautica 2, and the leak is 100% real. Which just let's focus on this.
Why is that surprising to you? Like, if I was in the middle of a lawsuit and somebody leaked stuff, I'd be like, yeah, that's right.
Sure. 100%. But I can't imagine a lot of large companies the size of Krafton confirming a leak of their own internal documents regarding an ongoing litigation. Because at this point, when they confirmed it, it had already been announced that there was a lawsuit filed on the basis of this information. So now Krafton has publicly commented on information that's material to ongoing litigation against their company. That's the weird part to me. It's not that they confirmed it because it supports their argument, right?
Here, okay, well, semi-lawyer hat, because I am not a lawyer.
Sure.
Here's my take on that. They knew that was going to come out in Discovery.
Sure.
Krafton Discovery is... The really short version is when there's a lawsuit and people, there's a part called Discovery where you get to request certain documents to help make your case. Some of these may be held by the opposing party, but there is legal precedent and circumstance says, I get to see those anyway, even though they're yours, because that helps prove the case for my client.
Right.
They knew that was already going to come out in Discovery. Hell, the founders probably walked with that PowerPoint themselves.
Right.
So they don't lose anything because Krafton is also battling a battle for public opinion.
That's very true.
And so this is their, hey, it wasn't us. These guys were effing up the game you've been waiting for. We're trying to come in and save it. Look how behind they were.
Yeah.
That leaked thing, that's authentic.
Right.
And by the way, the leak might not have been as much subterfuge as you think. Like, I've been at plenty of dev meetings where there's a PowerPoint on screen and people just take pictures with their camera for reminder notes later.
Yeah. There's plenty of reasons that those might have been taken for like non-corporate espionage style reasons.
Oh yeah, like people do that all the time. They take a note of the part, a picture of the part they wanted. They go back to their desk and they look at the thing and they're like, okay, these 3 dates changed. I need to update my schedule.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And people are talking about it could be a breach of NDA. Sure, but I would almost argue that's a separate issue than like the core issue here. That would be them tracking down a singular NDA breach, which happens. As much as we might like to pretend as an industry that NDA breaches don't happen, they totally do, and they happen way more often than anyone wants them to, no matter how egregious you make the penalty. So,
actually, I think Zach just summarized it.
I think, Zach's comment is exactly on it. Krafton has to win in both the court of law and of public opinion. Setting themselves up to win one and not the other isn't a good move. Correct.
Right.
Because
they need the game to come out and people to still be excited about buying it.
And at this point, they need the game to be finished, which it sounds like
it's not.
It's not. And if they continue down this route, it sounds like it might never be. That is an option that I want to be clear is totally on the table. If those 3 individuals were significant creative, if the lack of those 3 individuals and their creative vision was enough to delay the project by as much as is being displayed in these progress updates, then the continued lack of those individuals may mean that Subnautica 2 doesn't come out at all. That's a thing that's on the table.
This is Krafton right now, and I can guarantee you that like 4 to 6 week delay was Krafton figuring out damage control. Because Krafton was looking, he's like, we've invested X amount of money in this.
Right.
Do we cut our loss? And it was the pure numbers. Do we cut our loss or do we try and salvage it?
Right.
And they've decided on salvage.
Right.
Which is ironic. Canceled the whole project.
Yeah.
But they brought in the new person. There's probably a couple of other strategic hires to come in or promotions from within. Like the lead designer might be promoted to this, creative director, for example, it could be a combination of internal and external.
There's definitely fixing that can be done to try and speed things along. Yeah, absolutely.
But there are also I don't know the guy they brought in, but there are finishers in this industry. There's an interesting thing. Some devs are really good at prototyping. Some devs are really good at kind of the main construction part of the game. Some devs are good at finishing. Like taking all the pieces and weaving them together into the final thing. Some devs are good at that whole pipeline. Not every dev is.
Sure.
My guess is whoever they brought in as the new studio head and lead person, he's a finisher. And they will probably hire a couple of other finishers to come in. And I've worked with those people. It's really, sometimes you just do it on purpose. You get a team who's been working 3 or 4 years. You're like, okay, we're going to bring in a couple of finishers. They're going to help boost everybody's productivity to take this thing we've been working on and wrap it up and get it done.
Right. Yeah, and they're outside perspective at that point is very useful but I really love my horse armor system, and the finisher is the person who can go, your horse armor system doesn't fit in the finished game, and it's going to take way too long to finish it, we're cutting it, right? Yeah. That is a thing that that you can
Sometimes you need the fresh set of eyes coming in and being like, yes, horse armor.
Absolutely. No. Right. So with all of this being together, I think the big losers in all of this, by the way, I want to be very clear. The people who lose out the most in this, Subnautica fans. I really think that the big losers out of all of this are Subnautica fans. The game's delayed. The game is going to probably look different. There's all of this drama about Subnautica 2. I absolutely think the people who are losing out the most is the Subnautica fans 100%.
The other one, by the way, that I'm kind of astounded on is the fact that those 3 could be removed.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Something. So when you get bought by a company, there's contracts. And, it's how does this happen?
Right.
And the fact that those 3 sold their studio and didn't have some sort of contract in play for the M&A, merger and acquisition process, that protected them from firings when a simple firing and delay can get rid of their 250 million. Krafton must have thought they were so in breach that they could exercise whatever clause it is, because usually there's something in the contract that says, hey, you can't do this unless things are really, really, really bad. And if you try, we're going to sue you for it. And like, that's why we're seeing the lawsuit come in. But I'm also guessing like something about their contract on acquisition and how it got set up wasn't as strong on their side as it should have been. Because if you're getting bought for that much money, you should have a really good M&A lawyer and part of the process to safeguard you and your group who just got bought.
Right.
And this, to me, just it feels like they didn't have something feels underdone.
Yeah.
On that.
It does feel particularly bizarre, right? Mm-hmm. That there is some that it's possible, right? This all seems sort of like nightmarish scenario, right?
Actually, answer real quick. M&A lawyer. There are lawyers that whole specialty is in what's called mergers and acquisitions. In other words, you are buying a company or your company is getting bought. Like that is their specialty. I've worked with a couple.
Sure.
Like it's like working with an estate planner or somebody doing your trust. It's a lawyer who's very focused on one specific thing, or contract law, or certain IP litigation, or hell, getting a patent. Like there are so many types of law that are so complicated. You get specialists for that, especially if there's $250 million or more.
Right.
On the line around it.
Like when we talk to our lawyer friends, right? We've talked to our lawyer friends about copyright law before. Yeah. They're specialists because like however much law you think there is on any particular topic, take it by the number of countries involved and then multiply it several times over, right? Mm-hmm. Because international copyright law is just a phrase that makes my head hurt out of nowhere, right? As an example, right? So I think we're definitely going to be seeing more weird developments out of this. That's my bet. My bet is that we haven't heard the last of this, despite the fact that there's about to be ongoing litigation. I think we're going to hear a bunch. I am curious to see what happens with the relation, like, because people are saying that those devs are going to be out the full $250 million. Maybe. Right? But there is a possibility that they get damages in excess of the $250 million, depending on how the lawsuit is worded and depending on where it is, right? There are damages that could be awarded to them based on loss of professional reputation and the things that Krafton, and here's why that's so weird for a press release. Krafton put a bunch of stuff in writing about those people individually. Mm-hmm. Which means that, wait, hold on. One's written, one's spoken. Slander is spoken, libel is written, right?
Though they must think they have the ability to back it up. Because it's not slander if it's true.
Yeah, right. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff about them potentially getting as much money and even more. We'll have to wait and see. Krafton's going to be fine, by the way.
A couple other commentary from a couple of friends. So you're right on the team. Like the Subnautica, actually, the fans one thing, but the Subnautica 2 team is probably getting crushed. Like I have back-end industry friends who are saying that studio's morale is down, that it's kind of like, hey, look, mom and dad are fighting to see who gets to waste our college fund. Like it's, the poor team is the one going through it.
Yeah.
And there's a quote here I just saw. At its core, this dispute is between a public company and 3 wealthy founders who already received $450 million among the 3 of them, over an additional $250 million potential earnout, 90% of which was allocated to the 3 founders.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely with you. The devs getting crushed for trying to catch up. Trying to catch up for literal years of work on no notice is not great.
And possibly leadership that was effing around for the last year or two while they were trying to get their thing done in hopes of that payout.
Yeah.
Like it's let me say a weird thing.
Sure.
I have been at companies where people suddenly got a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard for some people to maintain focus, which can impact the rest of them.
Yeah.
Like if those three founders really got $450 million between the three of them, so we can safely say more than $100 million apiece, it can be really hard to have that influx of money and feel like you still need your day-to-day grind, especially on something that is a multi-year project and may be very time-consuming.
Yeah, it feels a lot like there's a very common phenomena, and it's one of the reasons why you should have, if you're going to play the lottery, and that's a different question, you should have a plan for what to do if you win well ahead of you actually winning the lottery, where people who win the lottery just burn through all of the money immediately because they have no idea what to do with it, and it's just there. Right. And it doesn't sound like that's necessarily the case here, but the large amount of money that people have access to will occasionally just brain rot immediately. So that is definitely a possibility on the table. Right. And again, a lot of this, so much of this is the founder said, Krafton said, they have this evidence, they have this evidence. That lawsuit thing is going to be the thing that determines what amount of that is what amount of true on both sides. I am absolutely certain. The interesting part, I think, is the mechanics of how all of this is also working, right? Where we're watching key founders get removed in the middle of a push for early access, and that how that all is working. This looks like a fascinating case study.
That shouldn't be happening, by the way. Like on a push for early access, you want, actually, let me back up for a second.
Sure.
At the end of the day, what theoretically everybody involved in this project wanted, and this is true of any dev-publisher relationship, is for everything to be going smoothly, for it to come out on time, and for the game to be equivalently looking to do so well that Krafton didn't even care about that $250 million it had promised, because that would be a trifle amount compared to the amount that came in based on a successful project. The fact that Krafton is throwing things around either means that they were radically trying to claw that back, or B, were so worried about the game that they were willing to go through the optics on this. Well, actually, getting the money back for them is probably huge, but getting the money back to a point where the game tanks and burns is probably not alone worth it.
Yeah.
So like in a reasonable world, the publisher and the developer are very much aligned in that we want the game to come out to be good and then everybody to make money.
Right. Yeah. I just think that this is absolutely wild. I think that's probably a good place for this. So if you've made it to the end of this discussion, this deep dive, by the way, you'll note neither of us have a dog in this race, like at all. Like I'm interested to see how it goes out. I think my position is it's entirely likely that a bunch of people screwed up. That's the furthest into speculation I'm willing to go. I am 100% willing to stake money on the idea that a bunch of people at both Unknown Worlds and at Krafton all screwed up to have it get this bad. That's my only speculation. I don't believe the founder.
It's hard for the publisher though, because as much as the publisher also has less leverage in some cases than you think. Like if Krafton was effing around but hitting their milestones, to me, if Subnautica or Unknown Worlds, not a lot Krafton could do.
Sure.
Like it's just like your milestone was hit, we must give you
Sure.
And so. Like they have the really kind of like when we were talking about nerfs and bans and other things on balance, or with Magic, you have the ban button. Publisher has more levers to pull than ban, but it isn't like we have fine tuning ability.
Right. It's not a knob. They're all big chunky levers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Yeah.
So it might be that Krafton was messing up, but it might also be that within the contractual bounds that they had, there wasn't a lot they could do until things got so bad that they could finally pull big lever.
Sure.
So it could be that they didn't make a lot of mistakes. It could be that they did. I'm just saying, like, this is obfuscated and hard to know.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for coming along for this little journey into
announcement.
Yes.
Today's Thursday, Will.
Yes.
Let's talk about Kickstarter real quick.
Yes. I was getting to that. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were going to sign off.
No, I was gonna do the let us know what you think in the comments below. And before we go, one more thing.
Okay.
Today,
Will, go ahead.
no, you're fine.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Great. If you're still here, Tuesday. That's Tuesday the 22nd.
Tuesday the 22nd of July.
Yeah, Tuesday the 22nd, bright and early in the morning for West Coast, middle of the morning for East Coast. We will be launching our next Kickstarter. We are doing a 2026 History Happens Every Day calendar. We've got some awesome
Let me grab
new...
the calendar to show off while you're talking.
Wow. Oh, this is the first...
Last year, sorry.
Oh, okay, last year. So I was going to say, we haven't made the new one unless you've got a sample. We're going to have a whole bunch of new art to show off. We're going to be talking with people, answering their questions about the Kickstarter, about the thing next Tuesday here on Twitch. Or if you are on the YouTubes, we will be over on the Extra History channel talking about the Kickstarter there because it makes more sense to talk about the history Kickstarter. So it'll be this style of art with a history fact every day. You can go over to Kickstarter and check it out right now and get notified when it launches. We're super excited. Please consider, doing that thing.
This is, if you like kind of history and factoids is good, this is part of what helps fund our studio.
Yep.
Is we occasionally do large, cool pushes like this. Last year's calendar was beautiful. Just hands down beautiful. It has lots of cool facts, lots of art. We got another banger coming out. It's going to be great. If you can get in early, there's an early bird discount, which is one of the reasons we're telling our friends watching us now is...
Yeah. If you're watching our live stream, you're definitely one of the people we want to know about this early. So,
go get that early discount.
Yeah. Let us know what you think in the comments below about this whole nonsense. Do you think it's all one side or the other? Do you think we missed something about developer-publisher relationships? Let us know down there what you think. We will see you all on Monday for breakfast or Tuesday for the launch. If you're over on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, stick around. We'll be doing some Night Rain coming up right now. I think that's it for us. Say bye to the people, Geoff.
Bye to the people, Geoff.